Hi, I'm David Carter. I'm a consultant for Vernier Software. I'm a former teacher. I've taught physics at college level and middle school, and currently I do lots of training for Vernier where I go around the country and do workshops, so some of you may see me around. Today we're going to be doing one of the labs from our elementary manual, and it's the Making a Magnets lab. And it allows the students to investigate magnets, and hopefully they've done so already in other places in their life. But the real big difference here is that this time they're going to be using a Vernier probe, and this is our magnetic field sensor. And what it's going to allow them to do is to investigate what the magnetic field looks like, maybe as a function of time in this lab, and actually quantify that for the first time. Maybe they've used a permanent magnet like this, and you know, they may know about north and south on the magnets, and so they know maybe that you can pick up various metal objects or whatnot. Maybe they know that there may be some other objects that you can't do that with. And so this allows them to investigate it in a different level than maybe they've ever had a chance to do. And so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to be using, along with our sensor here, we have a LabQuest unit, and that's a device that allows us to, we can collect on our own or we can collect with a computer. And we're going to be using the computer in this lab, and we're going to be using some software. And the software we're going to use is called Logger Lite. And Logger Lite allows us to collect the data from the sensor and see it on the computer there. So that's what we'll do. And one of the first things we need to do to get ready for this, though, is that we need to take our magnetic field sensor here and we need to attach it to the tabletop, because that's what the lab has us do. So I have some tape here, and I'm just putting it down and just taping this down to the tabletop. Now, you're like, well, why do you need to do that? Well, it turns out that we live on a great big magnet. The Earth has a magnetic field, and so we know a little bit maybe about compasses. And it's important that we take the sensor and try to keep it down so that it doesn't move around much during the experiment, because we're going to be moving magnets around it, and we want to make sure that it's not moving around on the Earth, essentially, and measuring that Earth's magnetic field. So we tape it down, and what we're going to do is now get our software ready. And if we were doing one of the labs from one of these manuals, there are some templates in the software, and in those templates we've established the collection parameters or things that you might need. So essentially all the student needs to do is open that up and they're ready to collect some data. And so I will go in and do that. It's very easy. I just go up here to open and I click there. And what we see here is a variety of different books that we have, but we're interested in the elementary science, and so we click there. And we're doing experiment number 38, making magnets, and we open that up. And we save that. And so now this is the experiment file for that experiment, making magnets. And what it's going to do, it's going to measure the magnetic field strength for 10 seconds. And so I will start off with this permanent magnet, and it just has me move past here as we do that. And the idea is that the students see something on the graph, and it tells them, you know, kind of how this thing works as they do that. So they already pretty well know that this is a magnet, so maybe they've had a chance to play around with that already. So they're just going to move it by there. So what I do is I'll be hitting collect here in a second and let it go by and do that. But there's another step that we have to do here that's very important, and that is that we need to zero the sensor. Because we have magnetic fields around us, if we look at the screen, we see that it's not zero right now. And one of the things that the lab has us do is to zero the sensor, and that gets rid of the background, so we're going to want that to read 0. And so I come in here, and there's my 0 button, and I click on 0, and now it reads 0. Now what I'm going to do is I hit collect and move it slowly. We hit collect, and we slowly move the magnet across the sensor there. Now we see the graph go down and back up again. Well, when we're talking about the magnetic field and we said we could quantify that, and here, instead of being north and south, it has to be negative or positive. And so that's how we measure the different poles of the magnet. So that's my first run. One of the things that we can do with the software is we can store a run and see it later, along with maybe some of the other runs that we do. And so we go up here to our little filing cabinet icon and we store the run. That way we can do another one. And we also want to label this that this is our permanent magnet. And so to do that, I go up under Insert and I pull down to Text Annotation. And I can type in permanent magnet. And there's a little arrow here. And I can grab the arrow and move it down to where it points at that particular line. And then we have our nail here. And so this is just a steel nail, and a lot of these different things you'll have the students bring in that they can try out. So steel nail's good, and maybe you have some scissors, a spoon, cans, or whatnot. And so what they're going to do is end up doing what's called inducing a magnet, and they'll take this magnet and actually run it down the nail here in just a minute. But first they want to do it without that. So we'll do it first without anything there. So one thing that you may need to do with this is if you've stored all this in a big box, sometimes you'll put it all in a tub and bring it in. It's possible that you may have actually induced a magnetic field in this to start with, and you may not really want that. You may just want it to be a plain nail. So you can tap it pretty hard, maybe hit it with a hammer, and have it, it won't be magnetized anymore. And so I'm going to do just like I did with the permanent magnet there. I'm just going to move this across the sensor there. We hit collect and we move it across our sensor, and nothing much appears to happen. Okay, so now I'm ready to make my magnet here. And so what the lab tells me to do, I can hold it either way here, but it just has me move the magnet just down the nail. I'm just kind of dragging it down the nail. And I want to do it in the same direction. Okay, and then we're going to, so I've done that part. Now, so I just did it with the nail on its own before doing that. And I'm going to do it again. Now, one of the things that we can do is we can do what's called a prediction function. Now, that's an interesting feature in the software where it allows the students to go in and draw on the graph using the software and make a prediction. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to drag this back down through there. And I've already seen it with a nail, and I've seen it with a magnet. Let's see what happens now. You see the little pencil there. And what you do is you click on it, and we can come down and we can draw. And we see there's a little tiny pencil there. And what I'm going to do is predict what the graph is going to look like as I drag the nail that I've magnetized across the sensor. So let me see. It's a nail, so I don't know. Maybe it's going to do something. It'll be about the same. A nail's a nail. So we try it out. So they get to draw the prediction. And you can have them just sketch it if you want to, but it's nice to have that feature in there. And now we have this, and so I'm going to take it. I hit collect, and we slide our nail over the sensor, and we see some change there. It stops automatically, and now we're going to auto-scale the graph, and it just stretches it out so we can see what's going on there. So now I have those three runs. So I have the first one, which I had the permanent magnet, and now I have the one that has just the plain nail, and I have the one where I actually induced the magnetic field there. I labeled that first one with the permanent magnet, and I want to make sure I label the other ones too so I can keep track of that. So I'm going to go up under Insert and pull down to Text Annotation. And the first one I will just call the nail, and that's just the plain nail, and that's this blue line down here. So I grab the end of the arrow, and I'll come down and point there. Whoops, I didn't quite get far enough down. Let me do that. There we go. And so that's labeling that one. Next, I'd like to label the prediction, and it's this orange line here. So I go up to Insert, pull down to Text Annotation, and it is the prediction. And I also grab the arrow, and I can move it right there if I want to. And then lastly, I want to do the magnetized nail, which is the thick green line. And so I go up, Insert, Text Annotation, and it's magnetized nail. And do the arrow there. And I'm also going to move the box a little bit out of the way so that it's not on top of our graph. And now we've added the text annotations. And then what the lab does, it says, well, now you've seen this, try this out with some other things. And so we have some other objects here. And we have the steel can, and we have the scissors here. And so I might come in, and I'll take the scissors, and we can see, well, maybe this will be magnetic. So I'm going to do just like we did with the nail. It says to do it 10 or so times. So that should be sufficient there. And so now I have it. I'm going to go back up here, and let me make sure I stored that last run, just to hold on to it. Press the Collect button, and I move the scissors across there. Oh, and this time we see quite a bit of change. That was nice. So I could label that one. So Insert, Text Annotation, and these are the scissors. And so I take the arrow and I will point it at the scissors. And maybe I'll store this run too. We've tried something else. Hey, let's try a can. You'll have these around everywhere. So one thing that comes up with students, if you ask a student, what do you need to make a magnet? And they'll say, oh, you can rub something that's metal with a magnet, and you'll have a magnet. Well, there's maybe a little misconception there. This is metal, but maybe it can or maybe it can't become a magnet. So we can try that out. So I'm going to rub it just like we did the nail. So that's what, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we do that. And I make sure I stored that last one. I go up and press the Collect button, and we slide the can over there. And nothing really appears to happen. Looks just like the plain old nail. So it doesn't appear that I can make a magnet out of that. Now I think if this is the one I magnetized before, one of the things they can do towards the end of the lab, it lets them get into a little bit of playtime here. I think the idea is to kind of maintain some classroom management there. So they get to take the magnets they've done and they can play with picking up some different, maybe some paper clips or whatnot, and they can maybe try that, or let's see if that's still magnetic. Oh, just a little bit there. And so this just gives us another way of looking at the magnetic field. And that's really what scientists do. They're interested in looking at what the world is like. They want to try to get as rich and in-depth measurements as possible. And by using things like these probes, it allows you or the students to really get in depth with some study there.